So abandoned property, making certain exceptions, allowing county treasurer discretion when bidding off nuisance property. So this one created a mandatory law. So all property must be sold. So this was the existing law, must be sold for a sum not less than 2/3 of the assessed value of such real estate as fixed for the current fiscal year, or the total amount of taxes, penalties, interest, and costs due on such property, whichever is the lesser. So these are like, this was like your sheriff's auctions and stuff. So if there is no bid equal to or greater than the sum so required, the county treasurer shall bid off the same in the name of the county. Same in the name of the county. So that was the old law. Well, now they've added, with the exception of common nuisance area properties, if, and then it says there is no bidder equal to the greater sum of those required. Anyway, basically what this is saying is that the county treasurer can now create a process by which to bid off properties. And then they add this whole big section that says, in the case of a common area nuisance property, the county treasurer shall have the discretion to not bid off the property in the name of the county and instead allow the property to remain under its current ownership. So it's creating this process by which properties that end up in the county's possession, which can happen a whole variety of different ways. Basically, the county treasurer now has the option of selling this stuff and creating a bid process and doing all this different things with it. This sounds interesting and a little scary. Sometimes these sheriff auction deals can get a little crazy. There was a really good, I'd have to go find it. Can't remember if it was NPR who did it, but there's a story down in Georgia about or it might have even been John Oliver or someone. Anyway, about how basically sheriff's auctions just steal people's properties. Like you have back taxes on it, and then you either don't know, or it's like a family member was supposed to pay them and they didn't, so your family loses this property. And it happens, of course, to poor people or elderly people or people, otherwise unable to take care of this. And instead of the sheriff going and figuring out the details and trying to track people down and get the problem resolved, properties get flipped to investors or vulture capitalists to profit off of. So they get really cheap property that is wholly paid for by someone else who is just a little delinquent on the taxes because of illness or messed up paperwork or some, trivial issue. And so that's really bad. And now this creates maybe a slightly better process where if a property is deemed a nuisance, which sometimes those aren't individually owned personal property, it's bank owned stuff or out of state, slumlord type stuff. I don't know. I feel like this could get kind of interesting, or it's property that literally there's no heir to it, somebody dies, they have no children, the property just comes available and there's nothing to do with it. So, it often ends up in the government's possession. So anyway, this could be an interesting process. It could also be a highly corrupt process whereby a few insiders get very cheap property that's declared a nuisance. But anyway, it's something that I think anybody in the real estate world should be watching, because the current process of sheriff's auctions seems fraught and not great. But there could be some properties here that, if somebody just dies and there's nowhere for the property to go, I mean, it makes sense to have a process that's public and people know about to be able to determine what to do with that property. So I'd be very curious how many counties are tracking this and who they're letting know about it, and if that information is truly public.